All right, it's my pleasure to introduce Oscar. I'm afraid to say your last name. Will you say it for me real quick?
Mthimkhulu,
M-
means a big tree.
Say it into the microphone.
Mthimkhulu, which means a big tree. Don't judge the book by its cover.
Awesome. Thank you, Arthur, or Oscar. Oscar is the managing executive of South Africa's Kruger National Park, one of the world's most iconic conservation landscapes. With more than 25 years of experience with protected area management, biodiversity conservation, and ecotourism, he is recognized for advancing approaches that link ecological stewardship with sustainable community development. He holds a master's degree in environmental management and development, alongside with qualifications in conservation, leadership, and governance. Before his appointment at Kruger, Oscar held senior management positions with Ezemvelo,
Ezemvelo.
Ezemvelo, KZN Wildlife, overseeing World Heritage sites such as Giant's Castle and Royal Natal. His leadership now spans biodiversity protection, anti-poaching, tourism management, and cross-border partnerships. Across his career, he has emphasized the role of protected areas as platforms for education, inclusivity, economic empowerment, while contributing through leadership in conservation governance and policy. And I just wanted to give Oscar a special thanks. It's a huge deal to have the executive of Kruger National Park here at this conference. And Oscar, we just extend our heartfelt thanks for traveling across the world to be here with us today. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Goeiemorgen. Dumelang. Absheni. Sanbonani. Siyaphila. In my language, when I say Sanbonani, it means that I see you. That's how I greet you, is that I see you. It is an honor and privilege to get this opportunity to stand before you to share insights and experience from deep in the south, in the Southern Africa. It's quite humbling to get such. Okay, I just need to check how this thing works. Oh, okay. Thank you again for inviting me, an opportunity which, with all what I was busy doing, I couldn't say no to it. Because I always believe that there's always something to learn, and there's always something to share, and there's something to collaborate on. So just before I start, to just emphasize the fact that in everything, there is context. When we present and when we share experiences and when we make our observation, it's always important that we have a context on the situation. So the map is shows you where Kruger is, which this is the Kruger National Park. It's about 2 million hectares. And SANParks is a national entity that is responsible for national parks in South Africa and is responsible, a custodian of at least 54% of the formally protected areas in South Africa. I'm sure we all know that there are many forms of protected areas, but these are formally protected areas. Now, context again, I said to some of my colleagues that I was traveling with when we were going around, going to Yellowstone, to say, when I do presentations, so that I bring this thing context and perspective to show how big is Kruger National Park. It's a vast landscape. It's got about 35 diverse landscapes, and it's about 2 million. If you put all this together, including the Transfrontier Conservation Area and the Transfrontier National Parks in Zimbabwe and Mozambique, it gets closely to 5 million. That includes also private nature reserves that are bordering Kruger National Parks on the western side. Now, I want to leave this slide there because I want to focus on my address, on the notes that I've prepared for this gathering. But just so that you have a reference point when we discuss and we go through this this morning. As I indicated, I feel honored and privileged to share insights from the South African national parks, particularly focusing on Kruger National Park as part of the greater Kruger landscape. We are privileged to be steward of one of the diverse landscape on Earth, but privilege comes with a profound responsibility. So when I say this, I remember a local elder who once said to me, a park without people is a park without purpose. Some of you will appreciate the fact that national parks in general, they are socio-political constructs. It's how they were developed, it's how they were conceived. And they were based on access, recreation, and access based on class and racial basis. So we can't run away from that fact that some were excluded. And as a result, there's a lesser appreciation of the existence, and there's so much animosity between these local communities and the park official. So that wisdom speaks to the heart of today's themes about transboundary collaboration, because in truth, the fences that divide us politically mean nothing to elephants that migrate, the rivers that flow, and the vultures that circles above. So in some instances, fences are just mental blocks and are used as our positional approach in terms of what we stand for and what is our mandate. And it's always important to remember that in some instances, there are really no real fences, but it's just the mental fences and the mental block in terms of how we perceive the situation. Obviously, like all African savannas, the area that is now Kruger National Park has been inhabited and influenced by people for 100,000 years. And many archaeological sites attest to this. The best known is the Thulamela site in the northern Kruger Park, close to border with Zimbabwe and Mozambique. And there's evidence of trade between the Thulamela Empire and the Arabian people since the 1400s. And there's evidence of pottery artifacts in those sites. So it just shows you that in terms of what we're trying to protect and conserve, there was always people in those areas. So some more recent evidence or events that shaped the Kruger Park as we see it today have been the habitation by late Iron Age people. In some instances, the estimates give an indication that there are around about 15,000 individual people at a time. Big game hunting with firearms in the colonial area and Boer hunters since the 1950s, as well as the Rhino-Pants pandemic in 1896, which decimated wildlife and livestock. So at that time, there were so many events that were happening, and there are so many events that shape the landscape as we see it. But also it is important when we look at the national park, we see it as a landscape, not just as an island, because there's so much interaction that happened in that particular landscape. When the Sabi Game Reserve was established in 1898, bearing in mind that Yellowstone was established in 1872, it's always our reference point when we say how long have we been in national park and conservation, almost 153 years. Kruger is about 127 years if you consider that the Sabi Game Reserve was established in 1898, which was followed by Shingwedzi in 1902, which later then they merged to form the Kruger National Park. And there were no, at the time, there were almost no game left. Initially, management actions by the first warden, who was Colonel J. Stevenson Hamilton. I'm sure some of you might have a lot history about him. And in some instances, we even have camp named after his action. So therefore, at the time, the focus was rebuilding population and controlling predators. I mean, we see it across everywhere when we talk conservation. Predators have to bear the brand when we're talking conservation way back at the time, because they were not seen as part of conservation, so as people that were not seen as part of conservation. They were seen as intruders in these areas. So these are some of the concepts that shaped the conservation and how we have practiced conservation in the last 100 years. So then the focus was really to rebuild the game, to try and bring population back, and just to focus on how we can increase the population. But also another focus was to relocate the local people that were inside the park. I'm being polite when I say relocate, because they were actually evicted. So these are some of the issues that we now have to deal with that happened in the past, but now we have to reconsider in terms of how we then bring this together and making sure that these people that were once told that they were enemy of these national parks and that were not part of it, they are now part of this landscape. So at that time, there were no elephants in Kruger. If I tell you today, you'd say, yeah, this guy is mad. He doesn't know what he's talking about because of the numbers of the elephants that you would see in Kruger. There were no black rhino and white rhino. And some of you might know and heard of Dr. Ian Blair, who started the game capture operation in Hluhluwe Game Reserve, which was in Mthimkhulu Game Reserve at the time. And from there, the population of the rhino, particularly white rhino, was then distributed across the continent and globally. So at the time, so there were just few or species that were available in the park. So Kruger National Park is also well known for its active adaptive management and philosophy of learning by doing. We saw, we watched the film last night, where we see some of the courageous colleagues in conservation doing things that we thought some of it would have been impossible. And when you look back and see, these were pioneers, these were the brave warriors who did things that were unimaginable. So we always, ride on those experiences and wisdom of those that were before us. And we always try to mimic and learn as we go. Obviously, in some instances, it's not that always easy. And in some instances, we seem to be taking longer than what is happening in the landscape. So at that time, Kruger also established its own initial research unit. That was around about 1950, which led to the development of several long-term monitoring programs. I've met some of the colleagues here for the first time who have been in Kruger for research purposes, and they are still involved in collaborative work to look at what can we do and what can we contribute going forward in terms of managing and understanding these dynamics and the changes that we are dealing with. So that also contributes to the management. So again, some of these policies have evolved over decades, and knowledge and understanding of the system has also increased. For example, the issue of the fire management is a huge management tool that is used, particularly in the savanna ecosystem. Also, we have to understand where we started the policies where we were saying, well, we would not ban, and we started the point source banning and all sorts of things that we have tried, and we still evolve. We're trying to see what can be done going forward, but also as the situation changes, we also have to adapt. So now coming back to the elephant in the room, we have estimates in the landscape. Remember, when you talk about Kruger, you don't talk Kruger just as Kruger as you see it. So you talk about the greater Kruger aspect, which includes all these areas. You have private nature reserves here. You have communal land up here. You have some of the areas that people are still want to include as part of the of the park. So estimates indicate that we have got about 92,000 elephants in the landscape. We have some that have been collared, and these animals, they move across provinces. They move away, they move from Kruger all the way to KwaZulu-Natal province, down to Mozambique, Eswatini. So it's something really that it's very difficult, a species that is very difficult to manage. But there's also so much, I would say, there's always an emotive associated and attached to elephants because of their being majestic animal. And there are so many voices. Issue is someone has to take a responsibility and accountability for that. And in most cases, it becomes the conservationists that have to deal with that. But there are so many opinions and there are so many views. But at the end of the day, that's why we need to collaborate and have a better understanding on how do we manage this complex situation. So, as we know, when you visit Kruger, people who have been into Kruger, they say, no, there are too many elephants. The vegetation is suffering. Things have changed. We have to answer to Parliament almost every quarter about elephant population. What are you doing about elephant population in Kruger? So also we have to remember that human mind tends to remember what it first experienced. And any change from the state is viewed as undesirable. One needs to understand that vegetation in Kruger is responding to events that I have mentioned before, that happened 200 years ago, where there were almost no herbivores, and seedlings could establish into trees without any predation by herbivores. Some of you have been to Kruger, they will see a marula tree. It's also got so much significance because it's a significant, nice tree. And when you see it being pushed by an elephant the following day, it feels sad. So these are some of the things that we really have to contend with. So another important aspect while we're dealing with this issue and collaborating in this landscape is that we realize that it is important for us to soften the boundaries so that we can incorporate conservation areas from neighboring communities, including countries like Mozambique and Zimbabwe. So we have collaborative efforts and initiatives where we work together, either through tourism initiatives, community engagement and development, and tourism initiatives. And because we realize that this is a mega conservation area, like I indicated, approximately 5 million, and there has only been possible for us to work because of the political and agreements that have been put in place. So you work across different spheres of government in this landscape. I mean, Kruger falls into 2 provinces. In that you have 3 district municipalities, and then you have 9 local municipalities. Then you've got 39 traditional authorities and 3 million people. So it's a complex system. And over and above that, these people are unemployed. There's a high level of poverty. And people see this park as a beacon of hope. And that's where they think they would get some resources and they will be employed. As much as we're a big employer, but there's no way that we can employ 3 million people. And when there are issues of service delivery, they block our road access to our gates because they know when they do that, government is going to come closer for them to negotiate and deal with the issues of service delivery. So we find ourselves, as much as we're big as we are, we're small in those communities when it comes to the issues and pressure that we are facing. Now, I think the concept of transboundary conservation area, as we all know, is not new. It has been tested widely. But the issue is, even with this kind of collaboration, there's always unfair distribution of resources because resources and expertise and skills not always the same. But the challenges are more or less similar. And what happened next door affects what happened where you are. So the relationship and how we collaborate and how we work together becomes very important, because some of these communities are also related. They were just divided because of the political boundaries, and because of now they are Mozambican, they are not South African, and some have dual citizenship. So those are some of the dynamics that we need to manage. And we also have port of entry in the park, where people traverse through the park to go and visit their families, and also for tourism purposes. All of those dynamics, and there we work with different entities, government entities. The other day, I was attended one of the pond tree management meeting. And I was asked to explain what is a transfrontier conservation concept, what does it mean? And I explained, and the reference was to the fact that there was a meeting of head of states. Our president met with the president in Mozambique, and they were talking about transfrontier conservation, and then they ended up talking about poaching. And then the president says, "Oh, this issue of poaching needs to be dealt with." And the other president said, "But what is poaching? Because my people hunt." So context is important when we deal with these things and when we are involved in kind of relationship. So on our approach to conservation in the greater Kruger landscape is multifaceted and deeply rooted in cross-boundary collaboration. We integrate national parks into broader economic and social landscapes through strategic linkages. Remember, it's not just only about conservation, it's about socio-economic impact and potential benefit for these communities, and about inclusivity, which we also need to be considered. Because if you know some of these transboundary or transnational park or transboundary conservation areas, they also refer to peace parks in some instances. The idea really is to make sure that we all work together, because the system or the landscape that we're in, it's also always been the same, except that it was divided by us because of how we see things. So one of the initiatives that we also involve in is the Greater Kruger Strategic Development Program, which aligns with national priorities. So this is a program that is approved by Cabinet. This is a program that we are implementing, where we're looking at what are the issues from a socio-economic development program, and what are the pillars that we need to focus on to really assist the communities. As you can see, the socio-economic transformation and job creation, the integration of economic and land use planning. Some of the things that we spoke about, some of the presenters spoke about, are the things that we really doing. But the question is, are we really being effective in doing this? Are we really seeing the benefits? Are the communities seeing the benefits? Are our stakeholders believing that what we're doing is really talking to their situation and their issues? So these are some of the initiatives that we collaborate in to see how we can assist each other to move forward and create a better future for these communities. Now, the other important aspect is the community engagement in and around our parks. We have one of what we refer to a contractual park called Makulega Community, where once dispossessed community of their land, today they co-manage as part of Kruger under the groundbreaking resolution agreement. And this partnership has restored dignity, created jobs, and turned former adversaries to champions of conservation. That was one of its first in Kruger that was settled and land restored to the communities. We've got other forms, because after that it was then realized that Kruger National Park is actually a key national point. From there would be no further restoration of land, but it would be an equitable redress, meaning that they would be compensated, and then there would be a beneficiation scheme. We are negotiating, and we've been negotiating for 9 years. I'm told that on Monday, some communities did sign the agreement, beneficiation agreement, so I can't wait to get home and see how we progress from that. We also, as part of that program, we have people in parks program, where people who were dispossessed land form part of the forum in terms of shaping the management of the park. And other aspect is women in leadership. We know that conservation has always been male-dominated space. And to try and get women to this position has always been a struggle. So we are in that space to say we need to transform the landscape. You've heard my sisters doing a presentation a day before yesterday. I'm not talking on their behalf, they talk for themselves. You could see where we're heading in terms of the leadership and inclusivity in that space. We also face challenges, like many would understand. Poaching is a serious issue for us. And it's a syndicate poaching. It's not just simple, normal subsistence hunting. People that are syndicate and kingpins, those people are very influential people in the community. And they provide the humanitarian services in their communities. And in some instances, when you say, these people, we engage in communities, they say, no, can't be. This person is our hero. You can't say and label him as a poacher. So those are some of the dynamics that we're dealing with. And we are saying some of this is not necessarily local people that are utilizing it, but we're dealing with the beliefs. When people believe in things and their beliefs are very strong. And I think we need to deal with those issues because otherwise it is a problem. We're going back to the colonial era where all these resources are being taken somewhere else and local people are not benefiting. And those are some of the challenges. Again, we need to collaborate. We collaborate with neighboring communities, neighboring countries. We share information in terms of intelligence. We even share when we do tracking. We track up to international boundary. We hand over, they take over. In some instances, we facilitate. How do we make this so, like arrest effective? And we show those some of our ideas. But again, it's something that has to be carried on. It's not something that you can do once and say that it's done. Now, I want to just quickly to touch on where we are now. Okay, so this is just, this is a real situation. This elephant went outside the park. We sent our official to try and push it back. Communities blocked it. Didn't want it to go to the park because they wanted meat. As you can see, this guy was nearly killed by an elephant. So these are some of the situation and the commotion that happens and that we deal with. And some of them do not really break up because there's citrus fruits outside and farming and sugarcane. These animals get attracted to those, and then we have to deal with it. Again, Craig, if he was here, he complained about, he loves elephant, but he complained about this. You can see an elephant has been in your yard. So there's no issue there. Right. Now, I just want to quickly talk to Vision 2040. This is where our organization is going in terms of the future. We're talking about being intentional. We're talking about co-creation, collaboration. We're talking about drivability. We're talking about social justice, inclusivity, equitable access, because access to these parks is still an issue. So our Vision 2040, we're talking about co-creation. How are we going to make this? We own it. We have crafted it. But now communities and public have told us, no, you were part of it. We're part of this process. Now we own it. It's ours. So these are some of the issues that we're dealing with. But going forward, this is where we're looking to. Now, before I conclude, I just want to leave you with this call to action. Colleagues, we are here today, gathered to here, and this presents a unique opportunity for us to create a legacy of unity, shared purpose, and resilient communities across our mega living landscape. But we know we cannot do this alone as we're here in this room. So I leave you with this call to action. To government, let us prioritize policies that promote transboundary cooperation over political silos. To communities, let us continue to claim our rightful place, but as co-creators, not bystanders. To funders and partners, join us, not as benefactors, but as co-creators of biodiversity economy. to each of us in this room, let us remember that conservation is not a job. It is a covenant with future generation. In conclusion, the greater Kruger landscape stands as a testament to the power of collaborative conservation efforts. By working together across boundaries, we can ensure that both people and nature thrive, creating sustainable and resilient future for all. Our landscape is not just wild, but woven into the fabric of human prosperity and dignity. I thank you.
Great. Thank you, Oscar. That was incredible.